So we train here tomorrow, 5 a.m.
Nah, I got other plans.
You mean you want to go to Philly?
No. Listen, you want to change things in a big way, and you need to make some big changes.
Creed 2 was the 2018 installment of the Rocky legacyquel, and in this moment, Rocky is about to take Adonis Creed to the middle of nowhere to begin training for his rematch against Viktor Drago. Because the variables have changed, Rocky knows that Adonis needs to make big changes to achieve the success he's grown accustomed to. Kristi Faltorusso is an award-winning customer success executive, and she has watched client and customer success teams around the world and on her own team shrink, yet the needs of the customers remain as high as ever. It led her to ask, how do you do the work you need to do differently with the resources you have? She's decided it's about making big changes in how CSMs operate. This week on Next in Queue, we discuss the role of customer success in an organization, why she hates the phrase, do more with less, 3 strategies to support customers with a smaller team, the biggest skill CSMs need to master, and a shocking admission from Kristi and what she plans to do about it. Let's get to it.
Welcome to Next in Queue, the podcast for contact center and customer experience professionals. Next in Queue is brought to you by Happy2, your service team's personal coach, giving them the process, resources, and insights to deliver the perfect customer experience over the phone. Learn more at happitu.com. Now, here's your host, Rob Dwyer.
Thanks for joining another episode of Next in Queue. My name is Rob Dwyer, pronounced correctly by my guest, Kristi Faltorusso. Kristi, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great, Rob. I'm sorry to be joining today, though, because I feel like I'm not the best guest to be recording with you on May 4th.
Yeah, so we are recording this on May the 4th be with you. And just before we started recording, you shared some disturbing information.
I'll let you categorize it as disturbing. I will. But
are you going to share this?
I'm going to say it. I'm just nervous. I know that other people are going to probably have a similar reaction as you did. So
just put it out there.
Okay, here it is, guys. I have never, not once, not even a little, not even a clip, have seen any Star Wars movie ever. I'm going to be 41 years old. Not seen one.
Okay.
I know some of the characters.
Don't drop off, everyone. I know this is. I know you want to leave right now, but we are going to talk about things that you're probably interested in. And I know that was an admission that everyone is really shocked about, but stick with us. I promise it's going to get better.
To get it out there, though. You know what? I feel better. I feel more open, and I feel like it will actually enable us to have a more productive conversation because I'm living in my truth.
I agree. Is there, let's just go here. Is there a franchise, fantasy or not, that you really like? I mean, is there a movie franchise that we can associate with Kristi and say, oh, she's going to love it because there's a new one coming out?
Oh, a movie franchise that I love. I don't know that I love too many of the franchise. I think I'm like kind of like a one and done girl. Like, give me like a really good movie. Like, give me like a Braveheart. Give me like something like meaty that I can sink my teeth into. Like, I'll do a 2.5 hour movie, like no problem. But I don't know that I love like trilogies and like these long drawn out like 8 movies, and it's just not my thing.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I know. It's like, what I really love about streaming TV now is like I can binge everything, right? Like I can watch it all in one shot. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait 3 years for you to make the next movie and me have to wonder what's going to happen. Like I can't live like that.
A lot of these trilogies, the movies are all out and you could just watch.
I
You
could
could
do
just
it
binge
now.
them.
Sure, I could do that. But I'd also have to be interested in them. And that's just not my thing.
You haven't seen
I'm
them. You
not seeing
don't
it.
know.
Oh, but you're right. I don't know if I would. Maybe, you know what? Maybe for you and only you will I watch one and see how it goes. Oh, I thought of one that I liked. Rocky.
Okay, yeah.
Does that work?
Lots of movies
All
in
right.
Rocky.
So I loved all the Rockies and I've seen all the Creeds now also.
Including
even
the
new
newest one, Creed
Yep,
3.
even the newest one. Yep, Creed 3 in
How
the movie
was it?
theater.
I've heard
I
mixed
really
reviews.
like, I mean, listen, every single Rocky movie has the same plot, like, right? Like, it's like, oh, you have this underdog and then there's a training scene and then he's gonna die, but then he doesn't and he's the hero, right? Like every movie plays out the same way.
Yeah.
So this did, but great effects, great acting. What you see is what you get, right? Like,
Okay.
so don't expect any surprises, but it was a good movie.
Sure. I think that's a good non-spoiler spoiler. Don't expect any surprises. I haven't seen it yet, so that's good. I know what to expect, but you didn't spoil it. So thank you. Thank you for that. Who's joining
Okay,
you
so
there?
that's Miss Charlie. She's my 2.5-year-old Aussie Doodle. She was my COVID baby. So like most of America, I went out and got a dog during the pandemic to keep me company because I knew that eventually my husband would go back to work and my kid would go back to school and I'd be locked in we'll call this the attic, all by myself. And so Charlie's here to keep me company when my parents don't steal her. Actually, she spends more time at grandma and grandpa's because they just love having her there.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, she's loved.
We had planned on talking about some customer success and kind of what you can do when customer success teams are getting smaller, because in a lot of companies they are getting smaller. So as much as I want to talk about Rocky and the nuance that occurs in every film, because they're not all the same, but I get what you're saying. We're gonna talk about some customer success, and
if
who knows?
we must,
Maybe
go.
we can work some Rocky in there somehow. Before we really dive in, though, my audience may not know the difference between customer success and customer support and customer experience, and there's a lot of things with customer.
Yeah,
and
it's
them
a little tricky.
It is. So can you just walk us through, what do we mean when we talk about customer success? What is that function?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great opportunity for me to lay some foundation here. So when we think about customer success, this is the team that is dedicated to and responsible for the operationalization of executing your customers' outcomes, right? So your customers are buying your software to achieve something. This team is there to ensure that happens, right? And there is an entire formula for how you get there, which looks different everywhere, but that is what our team is responsible for orchestrating.
Yeah, that is, for layman's terms, because you use some big words there. They're the people after the sale that make sure the stuff you bought works for you.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Well, I don't know. You just made it sound less exciting. I don't know if I want to do it anymore.
It is really exciting, though, because that's really important, right? It would be great if everything was out of the box, but almost nothing is truly out of the box. There is some integration work or customization work or add-ons or whatever may be the case to make sure that what you're actually buying achieves the desired result that you were looking for when you were talking to someone maybe like me, who said, oh, it'll be awesome, you're going to get all the things. And then someone actually has to make sure that happens.
Yeah. It's actually, I will tell you, I don't think that people realize it is a lot of work to do what we do, but I think it's so fun because our days are never the same, right? Every single customer we have the privilege of working with needs something different, approaches it differently. You get to have all these different types of conversations. Challenges arise that you get to go and navigate and hopefully conquer those challenges. But it's just, I don't know. I love the work that we get to do. I think it's an honor and a privilege every day to sit in the seat that I do, working with customers who, are coming to us because they've got real problems to solve.
Yeah, some customers got an Ivan Drago that they need to beat, and you're stepping into the ring with them and throwing really hard punches.
We love a good Drago.
Yeah.
His son lives on,
That was a spoiler.
I'm just saying.
Not for Creed 3, but that was a spoiler. Okay. So one of the things that's been happening over the last, let's just say, year, maybe not quite a year, or maybe a little bit longer than a year, but we have seen, particularly in the software industry, lots and lots of layoffs. And these layoffs often affect teams like customer success without the customer base or the customer needs changing a whole heck of a lot at all. So when that happens, number one, what's the impact on the people that are still there in customer success?
Well, let's put it this way, right? Let's use an example of you have okay, I've gotten a really great examples right now. So anyway, the customers have to go somewhere, right? You got all these customers and you take away a couple of the CSMs that are working with those customers. Well, you still have those customers, which means they still need to be supported, which ultimately just means everyone who remains, honestly, they're just taking on more work. And they don't have more time. They don't have more hours in the day. And I think the biggest challenge, Rob, is that most organizations aren't accounting for that, right? It's like, nope, we got to keep doing what we've been doing. Well, you barely have the time and bandwidth to support your customers that you have today as a CSM. And now your boss has just told you you've got 2x. And we're not changing anything about what is expected of you. The expectation is you're just now doing 2x. I think that's a sad reality for so many teams and so many individuals. And so, I have a lot of conversations with folks. I think the thing that's the most heartbreaking, right, is you could lose your job or you could be set up to fail on the job that you have. And like, that's the sad reality for so many of these folks, right? Like they know the job market's horrible. So they feel blessed to have a job where they have income, right? So many families and homes depend on that. But when there's unrealistic expectations and all this additional work being dropped on you, it feels like it's not even worth it. Right. And so I think that's, that's a sad reality that we're seeing across a lot of customer success teams today. And, what I've been eager to do is educate leaders on, well, how can we think about how do you do the work you need to do differently with the resources you have?
So, let's just dive into that. First of all, is ChatGPT doing all of your work now?
No, but I wish it was.
So then what can you do differently?
Well, listen, first, can we all just walk away from this idea that you can do more with less? If I hear one more person say, do more with less, I mean, how is that even physically possible? Right? Like, I don't know. It's like, Kristi, lift more weight, but I'm going to take your leg off. Like, I just don't get it. So we can't do more with less. So stop saying that to folks and stop saying that to your team because it sends the wrong message. So if you're a leader out there, please find another way to describe what your leadership and your company or your board is asking you to do. But do not phrase it with, we need to do more with less. You need to do something different is how I've been positioning this. You cannot maintain the same. Now you can have the same objectives and you can be shooting for the same outcomes, but how you get there does not need to be orchestrated the same way. So let's just talk about it this way. My team, we've cut the team probably in half since I've been here. My customer success team too. We've also scaled back a bit. And my team has had to get very creative with how do we deliver the same level of experience and how do we still continue to guide our customers. And so I'll give a couple different examples of things that we did and we can kind of chat about each of these, but let's start with the first one. We introduced for the first time at Client Success, a customer community. Because what we wanted to do here was figure out a way to how do we scale the conversations that we're having instead of initiating everything in a one-on-one format, right? CSM to customer. Guess what? You know how many times we're having the exact same conversation with
Right.
different customers? A lot of times. So why do we need to continue to do that? Launching our customer community has enabled us to do a few things. One, it's connecting our customers with their peers, which oftentimes they're all having the same questions. Some of them have figured it out, some of them haven't. Guess what? They could figure it out together. Connecting those dots has now alleviated my team from having to answer those things for them because they're going to their peers. And guess what? Their peers are probably more knowledgeable about it anyway because they're all sitting in the same seat doing the same work. So when one leader goes to another leader and says, hey, here's what I'm struggling with, they're probably going to hear different, stronger examples based on experience from their peers they might from a CSM sitting in my organization. Not that that's true, but it's possible, right? And so we're trying to facilitate that. The dissemination of content, right? How great is it if I can put out one piece of content and it touches all of my customers at one time? They can go and search it and revisit it and use it when they need it to, as opposed to me asking my team, hey, we created this thing, on your next call, cover it, send this out in an email, right? Like you're tasking your team to do all these one-off things as opposed to just figuring out how do we do this in a way that's going to scale for us, right? Because we don't have the same bandwidth. So I can get into a whole bunch of communities, but let me community examples, but let me pause for a minute, Rob. Like, what are your thoughts around that? And how are you hearing other people leveraging community in a similar fashion?
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with Randy Johns, who's at Alvaria last year, and he talked about this community thing then and how it really allows not just for people to get answers without engaging with the customer success team, just like what you talked about, right? I'm working with peers who are doing something very similar in a different company. And so there's a lot of credibility that comes with, I did this and here's how I set it up or what have you. And sometimes different ideas about how I can implement, because I may have come to the customer success team and said, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. But someone may have actually taken that a step farther somewhere else, and they may share that with me. And that may be even better than what I was trying to get. The other thing that I really think this can help foster is that it builds a fan base among your customers. They are talking about the things that are good and helping other people take advantage of those things. Yes, they might talk about the things that are opportunities and could be better, which just means, hey, let's listen to that conversation as well. And so when you create that community, you're documenting all of these different ideas, some of which are ways that we can use the existing product in amazing ways. And others may be things that we can take back to the product team and say, hey, people are talking about this. Can we implement this? Can we fix this? Whatever the case may be. And now you're listening to the community of customers that are using your product. So I absolutely love that. The other piece that you talked about, to me, speaks to customer education. And so last year I had Dave Darrington on, and all we talked about was customer education. And his whole point was, in order to reach a certain amount of scale, that's exactly what you have to do. You can't teach everyone in person all of the same concepts. So if you can create content that helps people understand how they can use your product or different feature sets, then that all of a sudden becomes very scalable, because I create it once and now I can distribute it to all of my customers when they need it. I can just make it accessible to them on a YouTube channel or within the product or whatever the case may be. And all of that just says, hey, these are things that we can do much more efficiently with scale. And that makes the customer success team work on things where somebody just doesn't want to access it that way, or it's something unique, different, and new that we don't have content.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love it. And something that we've been really focused on is enhancing training enablement here at Client Success. And again, to your point, doing that at scale is probably the only way to sustain it. My team can't keep up with the volume of training enablement that needs to occur, because what we end up training on isn't just the platform, right? It's customer success best practices and like how to think about things. And just like you and I are having this chat today about how this space needs to evolve as we're navigating this economy, right? Things are changing all the time. And so if we constantly were just having that conversation, we might never get anywhere. We're just going to have the same chats over and over. So we've really loved community facilitate that. Something else that we're kicking off that we haven't just yet is, not just the written content and using the community as kind of like that repository of resources, but also using it to facilitate small virtual events too. So being able to tap into different personas that are active in the community to do small workshops, roundtable discussions, leadership things. So being able to bring them together, but in these small group settings, not too small where it's a one-on-one, but small enough for them to be valuable to our customers and building connections and relationships, but also getting work done together. And we've talked to a lot of our customers about that being something that's an offshoot of our community, and they love it, right? Because again, bringing these folks together and this knowledge sharing that's happening helps them do their jobs better and more efficiently.
The thing about that I love, that I don't know if you've even thought about this, but when you're bringing your customer base together in those much more intimate settings, you also, one, continue that fandom, but you can potentially create relationships with those different customers that could also be beneficial. For instance, I might have a couple of customers that maybe have some synergy, and one could use the other's products or services, or tap into some expertise that they have. And so it's not then just about the fact that I'm providing you this product, but I'm also introducing you to other people that you may find there's a really good business relationship with, or maybe just a personal relationship. Quite honestly, look, I know you're working from home. I'm working from home. A lot of us are working from home, and getting to meet new people. And even if those relationships are, over Zoom or Teams or the weirdos who use WebEx, like those can be just as valuable as the relationships that we had in a more brick and mortar environment. And so you're kind of helping create that, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've loved every part of this so far. It is still early in our community journey, but again, coming off this idea that we had to do something different to help us do our jobs better, more thoughtfully, more efficiently. Community was one offshoot that made a ton of sense for us, and it's starting to work for us now.
Yeah. So you talked about the different skill sets that CSMs need. I wonder if what you're seeing then is that the skill set that you thought at one time you needed has evolved, and that you need a whole different skill set, maybe just to build on, or maybe it's just totally different than what it was, let's say, a year or two ago.
Okay, so one, I know I'll say this is probably a hard skill, not a soft skill. One thing that I'd love to see more customer success professionals have a good handle on is marketing. Because it's what we do, right? We're marketing our product. But now again, as we think about scale, how you talk about your product in written content, how you talk about your product in these small video clips that we send, right? We're doing a lot of asynchronous communication. Having marketing chops really helps you, I think, drive the message home, think about how you're communicating and selling the value to your customers over and over again, which sadly we have to do it over and over again. So, I mean, that's one thing that I would say, like the folks that come in with a little bit of a foundation in marketing, or understand some competency, or have some competency there, or understand the concepts. Maybe they went to college for it and have a degree in marketing, haven't used it in 20 years. That's cool too. But those folks, I feel like, are brushing off new skills that have become really super valuable as we shift our strategy in customer success with this whole idea of we've got to change because we have limited resources.
Yeah, I love that. I would say anyone who's customer facing, having some foundation in marketing is a great thing, because any touch point with a customer is also a marketing touch point. Like, it's creating part of the impression of your brand. And it's funny, I was actually just talking to someone the other day, and they've got someone in a role that's customer facing, and they said it'd be better if they weren't customer facing.
That's not an uncommon sentiment. Like it also depends, right? Like on, if you've got a really technical product, perhaps you have a need for folks that have a higher technical aptitude and are a bit more technical and maybe less markety. So and it's okay to have those skills, and maybe you are behind the scenes powerhouse, right? And that's
Yeah.
okay. But not being customer facing is not for everybody.
Yeah. It's definitely not. And some people just don't want to be customer
Yeah.
facing. And if that's the case, I would encourage you to pursue roles that don't have customer in the title.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too. Yeah, this sounds like a smart move.
Yeah.
And
Well,
today's probably a great day to start that.
it's a great day to that's the search functionality that they need on Indeed, is show me jobs that are not customer facing.
Yeah. Needs to be some like inverse filters. We got to work on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh,
If I don't know if that exists, I haven't used Indeed, but Indeed, if you're listening and you don't have that functionality, you should do that. Do it
Indeed
today.
is still around. I just feel like I don't know anybody who still uses it. But I think it's for different professions, if I had to guess. Like, I feel like they maybe are focusing on different markets,
Probably.
different disciplines, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of
Yeah.
different platforms out there.
I won't go down the rabbit hole, but it's like, what happened to Monster?
I just know that at one point, Google Chrome was like, hey, you should really change your password on Monster. And I was like, I have an account on Monster? Wow.
And everyone gets 5 points if you know what we're talking about.
I've aged myself. I'm not, you brought it up, so I'm not going to take any credit for aging you, but I am definitely older than you, and Monster was a thing for sure.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about a second thing that we can do differently, right? For customer success teams. So we talked about community. I think it's one thing. Listen, let's not downplay though how much work goes into a community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's something to just take into consideration. Obviously, if you've got a lot less resources, it might be a tough time to stand up a community, right? Like I put all the work into it. It took me countless hours, nights, weekends of just my own time building it behind the scenes, in addition to my day job, just get it stood up and get it rolled out. So if you're already struggling, that might not be the best avenue for you today. There are simple communities, but it's not something you want to just throw together and throw out there without any thought and strategy behind it. Because if this is something that is powering your customer community, you need to be thoughtful about it. And it's not just a set it and forget it approach.
Right.
But something that could take a lot less resourcing would be introducing some automation. I think that there had been this notion, right, that there is white glove customer success, where it is this really custom personalized experience that you're having with your customers. And then there was like tech touch. It was like, oh, we're not going to touch those customers. And I think that, everyone got it real wrong, right? Because I'll tell you, like, if I think about customer success, over a decade ago, I was working on some really massive customers. And the idea of an automation triggering something to these huge multi-million-dollar customers would literally give me a visceral reaction. Like, I think I would get physically ill. Because it's like, oh my gosh, as their CSM, I have to be in total control. I have to know what's going out. I have to say it. I need to like just a complete type A control freak I was.
You don't strike me as that type at all. I'm taken aback a little bit.
Struggle is real. So, fast forward a decade later and a bunch of leadership roles and a little bit of knowing better now. one thing that I think a lot of folks don't realize is that you can still provide this amazing white glove, highly personalized experience and also introduce automation.
Mhm.
And so what I've started to do now is as I design what our customer life cycles look like, I design everything digital first. And then I try to figure out where do we add people where it adds value. So this way, you never create an environment for your customers where you're taking away, right? Like, oh, Mrs. Customer, sorry, we can't meet with you weekly anymore because we don't have the bandwidth. So
Right.
we're going to now meet with you once a month. You're taking something away from them that hopefully they found valuable, right? Which is, it seems like a ding to them. If you built everything and then built it up, you never have to take away, right? Everything's additive and it feels like an enhanced experience every time. So fast forward, we're probably in a situation where it's too late for that. We've already done high touch, low touch, and so now crap, what do we do? What I really am encouraging teams to do is figure out what are the things that your team is doing today that are repeatable tasks, not necessarily things that are high value, high impact, right? High effort, but what are those low effort, repeatable things that just have to get done for your team to orchestrate their day to day? And where
Mhm.
can you automate? And
Yeah.
so that has been something we have put, I mean, literally every day I'm writing automation rules because it's like my team's like, hey, yeah, if we know a customer is churning, we send them a notice 30 days before, their last day to make sure that they've got all their data and we talk to them about what happens and security and all this. Then we follow up in 15 days. Hey, did you do that thing again? Then the day before, we're shutting down your tenant. Like they walk me through all these things and I'm like, oh, well, you guys aren't sending any of those anymore. Do. And I just typed up all the emails and we put it in the automations and I'm like, done. Great. So now when you get to that point, you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right.
So we've been going through and I've been sitting with all of my CSMs and I'm like, tell me about all the things that you do that you've had to do more than 5 times this week. That's it. Just this week. And I don't need to know about the whole life cycle. I'm like, just tell me something that you've done more than 5 times. And the list is long.
Yeah.
The list is long. And we don't have, and just for the record here, I'm not talking about like you've got to go out and buy technology to go do all these things and you've got to make huge investments. No, I'm a big believer that you could probably do something with what you have if you're creative enough. And so I don't have a ton of cool technology powering all these things. I do have a competitive advantage. I do have client success and our platform does provide some automation. And so I'm able to do some of this there. But I mean, we're doing creative stuff in Google. I built an entire LMS on Google Sites. I mean, and Google Sites is free. I never knew how creative I was. Between Google Sites and Canva, this thing is a beast and it looks beautiful and our customers love it. And my point being is if you could figure out where your team is wasting time, you can find a way to save it. And so this is where it's like, as leaders, you better go get creative because don't get in your own way. Think creatively about how can we do this a different way? And it doesn't have to be fully automated, but can you save them 5 minutes? Can you write them an email template so they don't have to rewrite the
Yeah.
email over and over again? Drop it in a Google Doc, right? Again, don't have
Absolutely.
to be fancy. But if you know that they're building, if you do QBRs and EBRs or some version of a BR, create them a deck, right? That is easily editable where they don't have to go and rebuild these things. Or if there's certain data that has to go into that, can we generate a report that is pre-built for them that has that information so they don't have to go fish for it? Every day, members of our team are spending hours wasted doing busy work that does not drive value for your customers. And if right now you're limited on resources, you've got to go figure out what those things are and put some change in place.
100%. And it's not limited to this role.
No.
Every role, you should evaluate opportunities to reduce repetitive tasks that aren't adding value. I go back many, many years when I was working with team leaders in a contact center. And one of the things they said was, Rob, we have to enter the same data into 3 different places. And it's time consuming, right?
Yeah, it's
I
not
want them to
hard.
coach. They want to coach, but they're like, but I gotta enter this data into 3 different places. And so it was like, okay, well, how can I have you just enter the data once and then replicate it across those 3 different places? And it was a little time consuming for me to figure out how do we do that and do it really well consistently. But then it was just press a button, off you go. And the tools that you are using today, whether they're Microsoft based or Google based, there are ways even if you don't have to know how to code. Like, you can just, at this point, you really can ask ChatGPT just to write you a script.
Yeah, you
You know,
can.
it'll
It's not
probably
doing
get
my
it right.
job today, but I mean, I will say it is definitely up on, it's an open tab more often now than it was before. Just because there's so many cool things you can do with it. And I think this goes back to like, you just need to be creative, right? So you're identifying all these issues all day, and I'm sure your team will be happy to share with you where they are wasting their time. Even using something like ChatGPT, like if your customers are having to summarize emails or do things or do research, like, you know how easy it is to go drop something in there and go ask it a question, and all of a sudden, boop, 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 you have
Yeah,
all this great stuff you can work with.
just don't put your private information in there.
Don't put
That
your
would be a
private
bad
info. Okay,
idea.
that's great. Okay, don't do that. So no social security number, no credit card information. My mother's maiden name, definitely not. No.
These are
Okay.
things probably you should avoid putting.
Got it. Okay. Short
Yeah.
list. Got it. All right.
I know that you've probably got them all just posted publicly on your GeoCities website. I mean, your Google sites, not GeoCities. That was Yahoo.
I
Yeah.
do all the other things that your security team will tell you not to do, like have your password on a Post-it on your desk where
Do you
anyone
use
can
the
see
same
it.
password for everything?
No.
No. No, she says that she
I've
looks
yeah.
a
Yeah.
glance.
Listen, I'm just saying, like, I might not be the hardest person in the world to hack. I'm just
Don't try to hack Kristi, people.
please don't. I'm so vulnerable.
So these are all amazing suggestions. And I think these are suggestions that A, are great for customer success people. B, are great for other people doing all kinds of other roles. And I think too often we pigeonhole people into their title, their role, and how we can do things better. And some of these suggestions are things that will help not just customer success, but they'll help other people within the organization. So, for instance, if we already talked about how it could impact product, but maybe I work in support. And if I work in support, understanding the things that are happening in a community, for instance, will help me understand, is this something that is cropping up so that when I do get, a customer that comes in and says, hey, I have this problem, I might know a workaround because someone figured it out in the community, or at least I already know that this is a known issue. There are all kinds of advantages for the people in your organization to understand more about what the customer is going through, how they problem solve, and how they're using your product. There's a value all across the organization. So don't discount how these different things that Kristi has brilliantly brought to the forefront can help the rest of your organization.
I think it's a great point, Rob. And I think I have one more thing that we'll talk through today. Hopefully we've got a few minutes, but this also does apply. The last thing I would talk about is the need to change roles. And when I say this, it's like, I feel like everyone, you've got the headcount you had. Oh, well, I had an ops person that went away. I had this other specialty role that was taken away. Well, do the people that you have in the seats today, are they in the right seats for what this new redesigned motion needs to look like? Right? Do you need 4 CSMs or do you need 3 CSMs and this ops person? Because this ops person, does that help them scale? And then do you have somebody in your team who is really excited about taking on an operations role? This just goes back to, like, again, this creative thought mindset that we need to kind of work with right now. But I've seen so many teams evolve really thoughtfully and introduce new roles that had never existed because there is a business need today. So I would say the third thing, if I'm asking you to, like, again, don't do more with less, but how do you do something different? How do you go and reassess the people that are on your team today? And are those people in the right seats for this new strategy? Because not only are you going to be able to drive a better business model for your current business, but you're also giving somebody on your team an opportunity to step into a new and different role. And we're always looking for opportunities as leaders to, like, help advance careers or give people opportunities who have earned the right or have expressed that interest, worked hard. These are the times to do that. right? Take a chance on somebody who wants to do something different. And I guarantee you that shift might yield a whole new different approach for your business in a really thoughtful way. And so that would be my third thing. So I'm going to give you community today, automation and creative thinking, and rethink the roles that you have on your team with the people that remain there today.
Yeah, I so love that. And the reason that I love it is there is the potential that you have untapped talent for a particular function. And I don't care what role it is. After a while, it might get a little tedious for some people. People like doing new things. And so when you offer someone an opportunity to do something new, not only does it allow them to grow their skill set potentially or employ skills that they have that they haven't been using, it gives them something new and exciting to do. And that's going to help the retention because look, we're talking about businesses that have laid off people.
Yep.
That doesn't mean they necessarily want to lose any more talent because it's expensive to replace than if you need to go do that. So it's better if you can engage people with new and exciting things so that they do stick around and remain ambassadors of the company culture that you want to have. Because that's the other thing that we didn't talk about is, and this isn't limited to customer success, but the company culture can take a big hit when you go through a round of layoffs. And so it's important that the people who are still there feel good about what they're doing and feel good about the company, the mission, the values, what you're trying to accomplish, and giving them something new to dig their teeth into can go a long way toward that. Absolutely.
I'm beautifully said. And I think that more companies need to be thinking about that as an approach to employee retainment, and also satisfaction, right? So you hit the nail on the head, right? Like I've been in roles for very long periods of time, and then you start twiddling your thumbs and you're like, okay, well, what's next? And what do I want to do? And all of our employees are thinking that, right? They get to some point where they feel like they have mastered it, even if they have not, that they think that they have mastered the role that they're in, and they want to explore new opportunities. They want new challenges. And this would be a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
I've even seen just giving special projects, right? You don't have to change someone's role, but let them take something on that they own in its entirety and let them run with it. And honestly, like I'm doing that with a couple projects right now with some folks on the team, and you're seeing them light up in a new way, and they're invigorated because it's a new challenge and it's a sense of ownership, and they've got pride in this project that they're working on, and they want to see it through. And guess what? You know what the alternative is? Me trying to do another thing that I have no time to do. So feels like a win-win.
Kristi, do you remember the way Rocky's eyes lit up when Creed's kid showed up and he had this new project to be this father figure, boxing mentor, and not the boxer?
Yes.
I feel like
that first episode, that first movie was very emotional.
I feel like he just described the movie right there. Like that's what happened.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks for
Yeah,
keeping my movie throughout this and like threaded throughout. I appreciate that.
I mean, it feels right. It just feels right. Kristi, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and admitting to the world that you've not seen a single Star Wars movie.
I'm still uncomfortable that I've said this all out loud, but I feel like it's for the best. And I feel like I'm going to actually go watch one this weekend so that if anyone follows up after this is live, that I can actually say that is no longer a truth.
Okay, so I'm going to, maybe we need to give some advice right now. First of all,
okay.
Do you have a subscription to Disney Plus?
I believe so. Yes, I think so.
Okay.
It's not one that I use. It's not one of the ones I use. But yes, I think in our house, I think for my kid, we have a Disney Plus.
Okay.
I'm taking notes here, Rob.
I think if you want something that is going to give you some of the emotional stuff It'll be weird to enter it without any history of Star Wars, but I think you can do it without any history of Star Wars, at least the first season. And it's very accessible. You should watch The Mandalorian.
Oh, okay.
It's accessible. It's fun. It'll give you a little
And you don't think I
heartwarming
need any of
moments.
the other, I don't need any other foundation here. I don't need to watch like the first one.
I mean, it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt.
Will I
If
enjoy
you're-
this will I enjoy it more than starting with the first one?
If you are just going to watch the movies. Now, The Mandalorian is a series, right? So it's
Yep.
like
But
8
all the
episodes.
episodes are available, right? We already talked about this. I don't like to wait.
3 seasons worth.
Oh, good. Something I can go deep into. Okay. Sounds
Something
like a
you
rabbit
can go
hole.
deep into.
Okay.
But if you're going to do the movies, you have to start with episode 4. And I can't
Episode
tell
4?
you. Yeah, I can't tell you. It's weird, right? There are 11 movies. Some of them are unnecessary, in my opinion, but you've got to start with episode 4, A New Hope, work your way through to episode 6.
Wait, so I go 4, 5, 6?
4, 5, 6,
Okay.
then go back to episode 1.
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa, I know. But that's how they were made. They started with 4, 1977, 4, 5, 6.
So why was it number 4?
It wasn't number 4 when they made it. It was just Star Wars when they made it.
Oh, and then they put these other ones in front of it?
So they did it. So think of it like this. They did like Rocky 1, 2, and 3, but then they were like, oh, let's go back and visit young Rocky. And so they really were like, okay, well, this is actually Rocky 4, 5, 6. We're gonna go back and we're gonna make 1, 2, and 3.
Got it. So that would be before Cuff and Link.
Yeah. So if you're gonna watch the movies, that's the reason you should do it that
Okay.
way. Because
So I'm going 4,
if
5,
you-
6, then 1, 2, 3.
if you don't do it in that order, there is a huge spoiler, and you just don't want that spoiler. So you need to do 4, 5, 6 first.
Okay. Then does 7 through 11, do those matter, or are those the ones?
Well,
that,
here's the
like-
thing. There's no number 10 or 11. There are a couple of offshoot movies. 7, good. Maybe you can stop right there. And then there's the best movie, which is Rogue One. And you can, if you want, after you watch 1, 2, and 3, then you can watch Rogue One and then maybe 4, 5, 6 again if you just want to get crazy. You want to go crazy.
Wait, so then when would I go back to 7?
And then do 7. And then if you want, you can do 8 and 9, but
So 8 and 9, but
optional.
but those last 2 movies, you're like,
If you've
no
gone
skin in
that
the game?
far, if you've done all of that, you'll watch 8 and 9 because you've already invested.
Yeah, I'm
You're-
just too deep. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, you're in it. You got to go.
All right,
the
I'm gonna
whole
put
way.
this out there for my husband. Okay, so like my husband, I won't say that he has definitely never seen them, but neither of us have watched them, and I'm not confident that he has seen any of them either. Maybe he's seen one.
So
So
here's-
not number 1, but like in a movie.
So do this. Watch an episode or 2 of The Mandalorian, the first season. If you dig it and you're like, okay, I could kind of get into this, then you can go do the movies, which are a much bigger investment.
Okay, quick question. How sci-fi is this? Like how much of this is gonna be like too much for me?
I mean, it happens in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, so does customer success.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, I know, but I know the Spaceballs version, so it's a little different.
Which is, I mean, if you enjoyed Spaceballs, you'll enjoy
I loved
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs. I
even
loved
more
Spaceballs the movie. Spaceballs the flamethrower.
Merchandising. You didn't get all of the stuff. You don't even know all of the gags because you haven't seen Star Wars.
I mean, it was funny regardless. So
Yes,
So
100%.
funny regardless. But now if you're telling me, actually, if you've just pitched me here that Spaceballs could become funnier if I go do this, I might just do this so I can go rewatch Spaceballs.
I love that idea. I love it. You can do this. You can just watch 4, 5, 6, and then Spaceballs.
I'm in. I feel like that's something I can really commit to. I might even be able to get my husband signed up. We're running marathons this weekend, so we've got a lot of recovery time slotted on the couch, probably with like some compression boots and some shock therapy going on. So we're gonna need stuff to watch.
Love it. Love
This
it.
sounds like a great lock ourselves in the basement and like just get it done.
If I've accomplished nothing else today, this is my May the 4th celebration. This is what I've done.
I feel like I want to gift this to you. I feel like I don't want to even do this for myself. I feel like I owe this to you to go and put this work in.
I just want to hear how it went.
I'm gonna be very honest when I get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if it went poorly, either way, maybe we just record it and append it to the end of this episode. Kristi, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Oh, you too, Rob. Thanks so much for having me on.
Next in Queue is brought to you by Happy To and is produced by me, Rob Dwyer. If you enjoy this podcast, please by all means subscribe and or rate this podcast in iTunes or your favorite podcast app. But more importantly, please tell just one person about this podcast. Word of mouth is the best way for people to discover new content. As always, thanks for listening.